So this is Guido from the Gold Trainers. We're here with Sara Bigatti, a personal trainer living already 4 years in the Netherlands, now 1.5 years in Utrecht. You're also a collaborator from the SNS Fitness Wolves. You're alternative fitness enthusiast, animal flow, steel mace, I heard already, and a lot of different things. And you're currently training for a triathlon.
Yes, that's
Amazing.
me.
Sarah, nice
Yes,
to have you here on this video call, on this interview. And yeah, how come that you choose for the Netherlands? That's actually what I'm very curious about.
that's an interesting question. It started from a totally different background. So my background goes through like economics and marketing and that kind of direction. So I came initially to the Netherlands as like a new experience. I was a couple of years in Australia, went back to Italy for like a month and didn't feel like could stay there. So I was just like giving away curriculums everywhere, and I ended up in the Netherlands, so in Amsterdam. Then I started working into sales environment, and yeah, tried different things, went traveling and tried to figure out what I wanted in my life, and ended up staying in the Netherlands and changing my career upside down a little bit. And yeah, and then I stayed. Like I think here there's like so many opportunities, and I decided to be freelancer. So I decided to work on my own and go towards my direction. And I think here in the Netherlands is quite easy, let's say, and motivating and possible, let's say. So
Yeah, it's so nice to hear you having that different perspective. I mean, I wouldn't say it's easy, but I would say if you have the perspective of the world of entrepreneurship of Italy, then the
yeah,
Netherlands is a whole different ballgame, right?
I think so. I mean, things are possible. Then I don't believe it's easy. I don't believe it's easy. It's not easy to get like a successful business. There are
Mm.
many people trying to open something and try to be coaches or try to be personal trainers or whatever, and not succeeding or just staying in the average. But here things seem possible. So you're not limited by the mentality of being like, oh yeah, but if you don't have that specific degree or if you don't have that specific thing, you can't do anything. Here is more about your abilities, your skills, how you relate with people, and of course your like your studies and everything. It's important, but it's also possible to do it self-made
Mm.
yourself, let's say.
Yeah, exactly. So the constant development.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
exactly.
also what you're about, right? You recently did a course in animal flow.
Yeah, I did it beginning of the year when it was still possible to travel. So I went to Brussels, so it was kind of close by. And it was like 2 days of intensive course for the level 1 certification. And yeah, I mean, I loved it. I think it's like amazing way of moving your body without being too linked to any scheme or anything that is like specific. Like when you go to gym, for instance, you have 3 sets of 10 repetitions and then you go for it, and then you 3 sets of 12 repetition, you go for it. Sometimes it's useful. For instance, when I think about triathlon and I think about functional training with it, might be useful sometimes to be a little bit following a scheme. But the animal flow is quite like it enhances your freedom. So I think it's amazing.
It enhances your freedom.
How is
So
my
yeah, no,
freedom?
no, it's cool. Like if your freedom enhanced by that kind of movement.
Yeah.
But what's the reason like you love it so much?
I think that's like it's sort of an art. I see it. So it doesn't need to be in a certain way. You can make it as you want, and you can use it in in many other sports and in many other things. So a little bit of what the idea I have is also to find ways for instance, endurance athletes to train strength and endurance strength in a bit of a different way. And I think this is amazing because, for instance, animal flow, you use a lot of contact with the ground,
Yeah.
and a lot of shoulder stability and a lot of those kind of things for swimmers is amazing. So just take people a bit out of, you have to do this thing in order to go there, but to be like, you can get there in many different ways.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit, getting a little bit out of the scheme that is what your training plan is. So there's not only one solution.
No. I like that. That's super interesting, because the standard mentality is indeed like, okay, now you have to do 3 sets of 12, right? And that's what you were telling. And this animal flow, you can still train your whole body, but with all kinds of different movements.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And it develops also a lot of focus. So one thing you can do it, but it's a little bit like calisthenics, I guess, as well. It's not like you don't have like specific way of training that. You can try different things, and then you'll be able to do it at one point, you know?
Yeah. Still, reps and sets are really integrated into the core of calisthenics, I would say. I mean, there's also the freestyle element, but like structure-wise, I mean, you can do a lot of different kind of push-ups, but you still need to do the repetitions, right?
Yeah, but I mean, repetition is also a standard way to progress, right? So if you want to be faster in running, you cannot just go running as you feel. You should be doing repetitions, intervals, try to push your pace and whatever. So it's always, you need to have a structure if you want to progress. That's of course. But there's a difference and like a freedom of movement, like between, I don't know, I see it in running as well, in swimming and all those kind of endurance training, animal flow. I don't see it in the gym when you're lifting weights. I see that as just a way in order to. And that's a little bit what I try to detach.
Yeah, it becomes more fun to do the journey as well of the movement,
Exactly.
right? It's not only about where you want to go, but also like the journey, how to get there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, that's also where we stand for, right? Like, freedom of movement is such a aspect. Like, everybody has a different meaning to it. Like, so the full meaning for freedom, like in movement, for movement freedom, what does it mean to you?
Well, I see movement as like a way to change and connect with something. So by using movements, you can, like, by using movement, repeating a movement, and let's go back to repetition and sets and whatever, you sort of make a change to your body, to your mind. You learn to do something new, and then you create this connection with your body. We're gonna create this connection with your mind as well, and then if you go back to where you started, you realize and appreciate what the change that you've made. So for me, freedom of movement is just like feel that you are able to do things that at the beginning you thought that were not possible, and you're just able because you tried that specific thing, but you also tried many others, and then you ended up being able to do something at the beginning you were not able to do. So
Yeah, wow.
just feel free to do and perform what you want, and not just be like, okay, I have to do sports, I'm going to the gym and I'm gonna do machines. So then, oh yeah, I have done my sports today. So I don't see sports that way. So that's also my goal with my clients, is to help them to see sports movement as something that makes them feel good and free to be and live normally, you know?
Yeah. And your body should never be the issue, right? Like, never be the problem.
Exactly. So just get into the mindset of people also to start appreciating sports in a different way. So not just like as a thing you have to do, but just as a thing that you enjoy to do and you look forward to.
Yeah, exactly, Sarah. So
Yeah.
let's say somebody would be listening or watching this back and would think like, okay, that's very nice that you say that, but what are like 3 to 5 things that I can directly start with and pick up myself?
Mm-hmm.
And
With
yeah, like tips to start going in the direction of having more movement freedom or seeing movement more as fun? Like how did that, what kind of tips do you want to give about
Well, first of all, start to get movement as a habit. That's I believe is a must,
it?
and just sometimes people are just not used to it. So I would say get your 20 minutes, 30 minutes a day, and set it as a habit. Maybe connect with someone that likes movement or enjoys movement, and then you can like pick up a little bit of motivation as well. I would say choose something that you really enjoy to do. So sometimes you will have maybe some things that you don't love in a training, in whatever training, there are some things you don't love, and you have those things, but just try to keep like I don't know, I would say maybe like once a week, something that you're like, okay, I'm going out of schemes, I'm just going to do this thing because I like it.
Exactly.
5, I can't come up with the last two ones.
No, but it's good. 3 is perfect.
I think it's
Like,
good also.
yeah, it's as a start. Like it's not about the number. Also, it's more about like are things that you integrate yourself, right? And maybe later in the conversation you will pick them up. And yeah, what I really hear from that is like if you have it as a habit, we just advise them to people to do it directly in the morning, for example, right? Like at moments that
Yes,
you still have.
I would suggest that. In the
Yeah,
morning, I think it gives you all the energy for the day. For
yeah,
instance, this morning I woke up, I was tired. I went biking yesterday, and I woke up this morning, I was tired, and I was like, okay, I have two options. Either I stay home, I have my breakfast, I start working, I start doing my things, and I go later on in the day, or I wake up and I go running.
yeah.
So then I was like, okay, I'll go straight away. Because in that way, you like your mind, you're only still a bit tired, but if you go straight away, then you're like, your energy goes up and you don't start making excuses for, oh, I'm not going to do it, you know?
No. It's
So I
also out of
think
the way, right?
it's
You can like
how to do
take it
that.
off.
Yeah, true. So if it is something, sometimes, yes, it's nice. It's nice to just go in the morning. I do all my trainings in the morning, always. I think also after a day, an entire day, you're tired and you don't feel like maybe doing certain things, and your energy is like half of what it was in the morning. And in the morning, you don't even have time to think, am I going to do it? No, you just go and you make it as a habit. So just try to start at a certain time and go and have it in your calendar as the first thing you put in your calendar,
Yeah,
I
it's
guess.
fascinating. Thanks for sharing. So I can imagine, Sarah, that you were not always as enthusiastic about all kinds of movement as you are now. Um, so how did you go into like when you were just in the Netherlands, you did something else, maybe, but even before, let's say
Mhm.
like 5 to 7, 8 years ago, like how did you see movement then, and how did you develop like becoming more interested in movement?
So I've always done things. I've always done sports. I did like some swimming, like some swimming competitions when I was younger. I did some athletics. I played volleyball, even though I'm quite short, but I played volleyball for 8
Jumping
years.
high.
Jumping high, exactly. So I've always seen sports as yeah, like it's part of my normal days. I've always loved running. So I've always been like, even when I was traveling, I would be like in Australia or something, and I would go running. I would go out for a run. Um, but I think that the shift, I made it when I was in Amsterdam, and I started to give outdoor workouts for free. A friend,
Mhm.
like I was joining this group of people doing boot camps outside, and a friend of mine asked me, do you feel like leading some of them? And I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, why not? So I started doing that, and I started feeling how much enthusiasm people had, and how much energy I could get back from the enthusiasm of people doing
Hmm.
workouts, and the communication, the energy I could transmit to people, etc. So then I started looking into that more, trying to understand a little bit more, trying to plan a little bit more, got some people asking me for tips. And then it started building up. And then at one point I was like, I might give it a try to make it a bit more professional. And then it started in a normal direction. And then recently I started to be a little bit more interested in whatever it's alternative. Because I get also myself, I got a bit bored of, I did go to the gym in order to, I've always had this thing, I'm going to the gym in order to be a better runner. So a bit better swimmer. So I always had like a second goal. But at one point I was like, okay, this is getting boring. So going to the gym and doing exercise there, even the just environment that you find at the gym, I found it boring. So then I started exploring a little bit more, and yeah.
Interesting. So slowly but surely you became like a little bit like, the gym, it's interesting. There must be more to fitness.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've always seen the gym was just like a tool for me, a tool. So it was never like I'm going to the gym in order to get like a nice physique, or like I never seen it that way. But at the same time, I was like, okay, this is not the only thing you can do. This part can be part of your training, can be very useful. But yeah, I mean, I've always been like a little bit like whatever is standard, whatever is the path you need to take. I've always been like, okay, this is too easy, you know, like I want to try something a little bit different.
Yeah.
I think it's part of my personality as well, just to be a little bit more out of that path.
Exactly. I mean, you're an entrepreneur from another country in the Netherlands, and yeah, I've already a lot of respect for that. So
Thank you.
definitely respect. So what I'm curious about, like especially for people that are starting out the entrepreneurial journey, some people can have a quite struggling situation. Imagine yourself like 3 years ago, you just started out, right? What are tips or things that you could tell actually the Sarah of 3 years ago, that you could say like, hey, that you would speak with her right now and you would say like, hey, look, this you could have done way faster, way better like this?
Well, I don't know. I think I wouldn't tell her some things right now, in the sense that I think you build yourself throughout the entire journey. So there are some things, yeah, you may could have done, I may could have done faster, but I was learning them. So it's okay. Tips that I think are important is to network. So don't be afraid to just like, if someone like you did, like you write something on a Facebook page or on something, and you find that thing a little bit interesting, just text them and get into the network environment. If you meet someone that is in your same environment, just create connections. And even if you think they're not useful, those connections are useful. And there will be, something will happen. So if you meet a person, then you meet another person, then you meet another person, you learn something. So first thing will be networking. Another thing that there's one thing I would tell myself of 4 years ago, is to be consistent on things. So if you start out with, I think about advertising, so a very more practical thing. Advertising is something that will give you results in years, probably. And sometimes you get disappointed because you do something and you don't see results. So you are not known in Utrecht, and you're anybody. You're like, why? And I'm putting so much effort in doing these things, and you get a bit disappointed. So you stop doing whatever you're doing. So that part is, don't stop doing it, because the more consistent you are, the more you keep up with networking. It can be like a pike, like how would you say, like a spike, like how you say?
Like an arrow, or like a line, straight line.
Yeah, it can be like you put so much effort and then you put zero effort, so much effort and then zero effort.
I like that.
I don't know how you call it.
Spike would say.
Spike.
You can also call it a mountain. You know, it can be like a very steep mountain, because you have to keep building. So it's more like slowly, consistently
just
grow.
Trust the process and trust your growth. So I guess networking, be consistent, and yeah, just like two things that you have enthusiasm for. Don't try to do 1,000 of things, which is like a suggestion I tell myself every single day. I love doing 1,000 of things. I'm curious about 1,000 of things. I do 1,000 of things altogether, but I keep telling myself, don't do that. Just pick and go for it. Put
Okay.
all your effort, but go for that thing. Don't go for
So
1,000.
don't go for 1,000.
No.
What's the main focus right now then?
Right now is this alternative training, and what is my online part, developing like my website and social media marketing, etc. But getting into the direction of this form of alternative training combined with travel and exploring, and use a little bit of my personality and my growth. So all this like changing of environment, changing of country and adapting and whatever, using it on my site and help people to create sort of a, like adapt to changes in life and try to like embrace them, and use movement as a way to relax and to like develop yourself, let's say. But
Movement
focus
as a
is
way.
as
Yeah.
a way to get there and explore yourself, get to know yourself. But let's say focus is alternative training, and because of the situation as well, it's a little bit more of the online part of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So what can people get when they come to you online?
When they come to me online,
Yeah.
well, there's the what I try to do is also not to, well, I don't give standard plans out, but it's more of a plan that like supports also the feelings of the person, let's say. So
Yeah.
how this person is feeling regarding sports, is feeling regarding like movement and etc. So I try to help them, and to help them develop an appreciation towards movement. So try to get them like enjoy it. So not
Yeah.
feeling it as like a thing that I have to do, but as a thing that they will bring with themselves forever. So I
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
tell my
Yeah.
clients, it's like, you're not training with me for 2 months, 3 months. I mean, you can do that, of course. You can train with
Yeah.
me for 6 months and then say, okay, I'm okay. But if you leave after those 6 months, you need to be able to do it on your own.
Yeah.
So I don't just give standard things, but I try to help them. I try to teach them how movement works.
Yeah.
That
And
makes
making
sense.
it actually fun.
And make it fun and make it as a part of their life.
Yeah. I think that's one of the main problems. I mean, we have obesity rate in the Netherlands already with more than 50%. You might have heard of it,
Yeah.
right? And this obesity rate is mainly, in my opinion, because we are so comfortable in our houses, right? Like in our chairs with our thuisbezorgd, like ordering food. It's very, very simple
Yeah.
to stay at home and not do anything.
Yeah.
And then it's like every little bit challenging move becomes like, no, this is too much. And people stop exploring,
Yeah. Also because
right?
they start feeling fatigue probably. And fatigue is like, well, maybe you love sports and then fatigue is okay. You love that feeling. If you don't love sports, fatigue is a thing that you try to avoid. So
Yeah.
something that puts you in an uncomfortable situation and out of your comfort zone is something that you try to avoid, except if you like that feeling. So I take advantage of the fact that I like that feeling, sport wise or life wise, the feeling of feeling like outside of your comfort zone, and try to like let people know that they can actually have fun being in that position of,
Yeah, exactly,
yeah.
exactly. So I feel that's quite something because yeah, if you're currently feeling bored after training or feeling that your training doesn't fit or feeling at all like sports is nothing for you, then you actually are taking people on a journey of exploring new things and
Yeah.
will not stop until you find something that
Yeah.
actually works for someone.
Exactly. Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome, Sarah. Thanks for being here. And yeah, last what does your training routine look like now? You're training for this triathlon and Can you tell me a little bit, or tell us
Yeah.
a little bit about that?
Yeah, so for the last months, I've been training, like I train 6 times, almost 6 times a week. And well, for now, I can't swim because
Hmm.
there's no swimming pool available.
No rivers?
So,
I thought there were
well,
rivers in Utrecht.
yeah, now that the weather is quite good, I may consider that. But I don't know how this, like all these rules with the virus are and whatever. Yeah, I will try. But I really, I don't know if it's allowed right now or not. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it is.
It is? Yeah, well then
Yeah.
I will. I have to. I have to get into the river. Yeah, I know. Let's say it's not the most amazing thing to do, but
Nah, I mean,
the
I would
triathlon.
test because there are also lakes, no, close to you.
Yeah, in Marsen, there's like quite a big lake where you can swim there. I've done it a few times, so that might be. And also, the triathlon will happen in the Amstel, so
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah,
still like one of the canals. So yeah, well, I normally either bike or swim in the morning. On Sunday, I have like a long bike ride, so I may go for like 3 hours, 4 hours for like good bike rides. And then on top of that, I do some strength training and a little bit of animal flow
yeah.
inside. I normally do it as like at the end of strength training. So my strength training at the moment are a little bit more functional because I
Mm-hmm.
have the goal of the triathlon. So they
Mm-hmm.
need to be a bit more specific since I'm not swimming a lot, concentrate a lot on the shoulder and like all that
Exactly.
kind of stuff. So they need to be a little bit more structured. But and a lot of times I feel like I cannot, like the thing that I never say no to is my base training, so running, swimming, biking. I never say no to it. The strength training that comes on top of it, a lot of times I feel like a little bit demotivated of doing it because I'm
Mm.
like, okay, I'm already tired, I don't want to do it.
No, 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 no.
So
That's where
but
calisthenics comes in, no?
that's what calisthenics. I love that actually. Like it's
Yeah.
really, really, really nice. So I do go sometimes to like open gym and do like some, yeah, well, what I can do of calisthenics, which is like very little. But I think that's great for strength. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I
that's
do
awesome.
combine that as well a little bit.
That's awesome. Um, I think it's interesting because okay, so you're doing this triathlon. I didn't ask you actually to what kind of triathlon is it?
Olympic distance.
Is that
So, so it's
10?
like a 1,500 meter swim, 40 kilometers bike, and 10K run.
10K run. Yeah, I
Yes.
did like 5 years ago. I did a similar one, a little bit less intense. I did
The
like
sprint one.
yeah 1 kilometer swim,
Mm-hmm.
30 bike, and then 7.5 run. I have to say
Okay.
I was so like sore the days after, you know. Like, but what I wanted to say about it is like, do you also train biking and then running, biking and then running, like switching it up?
Not yet, I will,
Yeah.
since it will be at the middle of June. So those things, I mean, first you want to get strong in each sport and then you combine them.
Yeah.
So that's it's just a feeling that you need to get used to.
Mm.
So I will probably the last month. So yeah, I mean that's a plan. So yeah, of course you need to train because that's the feeling you will struggle with. So after biking for 40K, running 10K is not so easy.
No, no, no.
So
Your legs are already a little sore, eh?
yeah, exactly. And then you're tired from the swim before. So luckily, I always say, luckily at the end there is running, which is the thing I love the most. So it's kind of like mentally is also helpful because I like doing that. I like that a lot. So I'm like, okay, I'm tired, but I'm gonna run. So it's kind of all right. Then maybe
Interesting.
I'm too positive.
Nah, I mean, success and definitely find a river. We'll
Yeah, exactly.
for sure keep in touch. Sarah,
Yeah,
thank you so much for being here, for sharing some expertise. And
thanks.
yeah, we will definitely talk in the future. And who knows, when the whole lockdown thing is over, we can do a training
Yes,
session.
yes. So then I learn
Yes?
a bit of calisthenics.
100%, 100%. Thank you so
Cool.
much, Sarah.
Thanks. Thank you.